Leave Your Legacy podcast is supported by Wise Financial. Wise Financial is a Northwestern Mutual private client group member. For over 20 years, Wise Financial has dedicated its efforts to designing comprehensive wealth management strategies for business owners and many accomplished athletes. Through their efforts, Wise Financial has been recognized as an industry-leading firm. The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hello and welcome to the Leave Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Kenyon Murray, and today I am joined by, I gotta say, two of my favorite teammates. Couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different. But I want to welcome Chris Kingsbury and Jess Settles to the show. How are you guys doing? Just kind of tell us what you guys are doing now. I know, Chris, you're slow poking it, and Jess, you're jet setting it. So what's keeping you guys busy these days?
Well, Kenyon, it's going well for me right now, and it's so great to be on with you guys. I'm actually in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm calling the Colorado State-Wyoming game tonight on FS1. So just on the road. It's a nice day out here. It was pretty darn cold last night, but just chasing these basketball players around the country, and likewise, two of my best teammates, and just can't wait to get into some old stories and catch up with you guys.
Christopher?
Yeah, I'm out here in Paulding, Nebraska. I still got 3 kids at home, so I've got 3 of them that moved on. One's out coaching in South Carolina, and of course Carter at Iowa, and my stepson Sam's in Lincoln, Nebraska. So we actually have a sub-state girls basketball game tonight. So my daughter's the senior, and they've gone to state 3 years in a row, so they got another game tonight to try and go. Wow. So that'll be fun. But just working. I mean, we do some travel and stuff, but yeah, slow poking it. I like that. That's kind of what I try and do.
Well, here's the thing. Like, our journeys couldn't have been different, the 3 of us, right? But for you two, okay, we got Jess Settles, all-state kid from Iowa, from Winfield, Iowa. Then you got Chris Kingsbury, McDonald's All-American from Hamilton, Ohio. We'll start with you, Chris. How in the hell did you end up at Iowa?
It's so funny because I talk to people now about kind of how recruiting is and stuff. But, when we were kids, the 5-star camp and the ABCD camp, I mean, that was what you had to be at. So, now there's so many national tournaments and so many things, and everybody's giving out national trophies. But back then it was pretty streamlined. And when I was in, I don't know what, junior high or however old, I started going to the 5-star camp in Pennsylvania and started to get recruited pretty heavily. But that's just when I kind of got to know Close, because he just was everywhere I was. So really the only reason I took a visit to Iowa was for him, just out of respect to him. I was taking one to Ohio State too. I think Randy Ayers was coach back then. I was going to take one there too, just out of respect. But then they signed Damon Flint, who was the other McDonald's All-American from Cincinnati. They gave me my out to not have to visit. And then they got a recruiting violation. He had to leave and went to UC. But anyway, probably part of why Randy didn't keep his job for too long. But so I just visited because of Close. And then when I did it, I mean, as you guys know, I mean, all the teammates were great. I mean, Chris Street was my host. So obviously he was a good time. I stayed at his apartment. I mean, he was a piece of it, no doubt. And he was a piece of what would have been my freshman year. Me and Jess's freshman year would have made the team a whole lot different than what we ended up being. Obviously.
No doubt.
But it wasn't just Chris. I mean, it was all the guys. And, I mean, it's just a fun place. So then as I went to some other spots, just like, no, that felt the most like home. And like I've said all along, I mean, all of it's close. I mean, he was just everywhere and recruited me so hard. It's kind of like if someone has that much passion wanting me, then how do I not want to play there too? So
yeah, absolutely. Jess, it's interesting too, and I think people will start seeing the connection, and it all goes back to Chris Street for a lot of it. But Jess, share with our audience, what got you here to Iowa, and I know personally, but I think a lot of our audience will want to hear your story too.
Yeah, so my story was growing up about 40 miles out of Iowa City, dreaming of playing for the Hawkeyes, wanting to be a Hawkeye, as you guys know, and all the listeners know, no pro teams in the state. So all eyes were on the black and gold. Growing up in such a small town on a farm 4 miles north of Winfield, there's not a lot of competition. It wasn't like we could find pickup basketball. My story, a lot like Kingsbury's, is that you had to make a choice back then to go to a big camp and be discovered if you wanted to be recruited. There was no AAU circuit. That was just getting started a little bit, and you could be on a team that you had no idea really who the coach was and whether it was safe, and it was just so sporadic. So we, by chance, by divine appointment, there was a brochure that came in the mail from the 5-star camp that ended up at the high school on the bulletin board, and I found it. The coach just pinned it up, and so I went to 5-star, and that's where Close came and watched me play. I'll never forget the first day that I saw him come around the corner. It was 105 degrees, as you guys know, in Pittsburgh on the blacktop.
Yeah.
It was just old school, all day long, intense, elite training, but it was tough. And the first time I saw him, not knowing who he was, but seeing the Hawkeye, he had the old coach's shirt on with the Hawk, not the Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And I saw a loose ball going in the area, and I dove on the concrete just so I could get his attention. And ended up following both of you through Street and Smith and Basketball Times. I knew your names very well.
Yeah.
You guys were you were ranked so high, even as young high school guys, and I was just trying to break in, but it was just a business decision. I remember my dad in the kitchen saying, "Hey, go to 5-star, see if you can compete against those guys on the East Coast, and if you can, we'll be all in, and if you can't, we won't be."
Yeah.
I mean, it was just that black and white. If you can compete a little bit, we'll pursue this. And fortunately, I started getting recruited and ended up at Iowa, as just like the two of you, big influence by Chris Street.
Yeah.
And then we were teammates and had the time of my life.
Yeah. No, I think it's we talk about the recruiting part of it, right? So like Coach Close recruited you guys and Coach Walker recruited me. It's like when you come to campus, you have the coach that brought you there. So, you kind of gravitate to him. But I have a question. I never have asked this question. I don't know the answer. So I'm going to ask the both of you first. Why do you guys call Coach Close greasy? I never knew why you guys called him that. So can you share that with us?
No, you can't. We need parameters like Wolverine. You can ask, but you're not getting it. Maybe Settles will tell you something, but I'm not.
Hey, look, honestly, Kenyon, I have no idea why.
Yeah.
And I call him Close or Closey. I don't think I've ever called him that in my life. So I think I heard Chris Street call him that for the first time. Maybe, I don't know. Kingsbury, you have to tell us off the air, but I have no idea.
See, that's funny because Chris called him that. Russ called him greasy. And then, and then, Kingsbury called him greasy. So, okay, well, maybe I need to ask, if you want to tell me off the air, I'll just go to Coach Close. But I remember my visit, and the funniest thing about my visit, I remember the one thing I remember about my visit, obviously being with Chris, but then we went out that night. So I had a moment that night where I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do Iowa City for 4 years. So do you guys have anything from your visit that really stuck out that said, yep, I'm going to Iowa. There's no other place I'd rather be?
I mean, yeah, we did the same thing. I remember going to the sports column and, the other guys were there. You were probably there, and Russ and whoever, those guys a little bit older were there. Iowa City can present, they can give you a big time moment. Because it's just a fun, the Pedmol area then, it's changed a little now, but it was so kind of these small area of where everybody's going to be.
Yeah.
You're going to cut the line and go in the back door and do all that stuff. And as an 18-year-old kid, it's like, this is kind of cool,
Yeah.
I took officials to Virginia and North Carolina State too, and they were both fun. Gugliotta was at North Carolina State. So, they were fun, good trips too.
Yeah.
I loved Goose Settles. He was so fun to watch. But anyway.
Oh, man.
Fun trips too, and very similar, smaller feels to them, and I kind of like that. The other schools in my final five, Michigan was one of them, but it's kind of like can I go? I mean, as confident as I was with what I could do, where would I fit with the Fab Five, and how long were they going to stay? It was kind of like, could I got a spot in there and play? I mean, I could shoot it better than their guards, but could I? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas in Iowa and those other schools, it's like, I'm going to get a chance to play. Yeah. I know the situation. I don't know. I mean, really the only variable, I mean, honestly, was almost, if Settles stayed healthy and he left, I mean, there was kind of really no huge name guy like the Fab Five. So that kind of made it easy. But yeah, definitely. I mean, just the feel of campus and the feel of my visit was the Hurricanes. I mean, and I was on the field for that football game. Yeah. Gino Torretta. So, I mean, you talk about an atmosphere, we got smoked, but you talk about an atmosphere,
That might have been the first night game, wasn't it? I think wasn't that like the first night game? Because I think it was the first night game. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they run some play Iowa did to start the game, and it was memorable in all ways. But and I was born in Omaha, but I was raised a Husker fan. So kind of going back to Settles, the only thing in the state, I kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, that's what Husker football was. That's what Husker basketball is too. But so yeah, all that played a part. People always talked about I lived 8 years in West Des Moines. It's like that had nothing to do with it. I mean, it was really just close, and then that feel of the campus and the kind of the attitude and how important sports were was fun.
Gotcha. What about you, Jess?
I'm learning so much here, man. It's fascinating. So basically, the three of us almost ended up in Michigan together.
Seriously.
That could have happened.
That would have been wild.
That is insane, man. That's insane. I'd forgotten or didn't know that Michigan had recruited you that hard, Chris, and I knew they did you, Kenyon. But I visited Michigan as well. I was there on campus during the Fab Five era. Weber had decided to leave, early, but it was the same thing for me. I love Brian Dutcher. Yep. I love Fisher. They were great men. I remember them coming to the farm in Winfield, and you know how when you're being recruited, you try to probe these guys and get them to bash another team, or hey, what do you not like about Notre Dame, or what do you think about Tom Davis's substitution? Right? You're asking these questions of where you fit in, and those two guys would not bash any team. Yep. They would just say, look, I'm not criticizing any other coach. They're all good. This is what we can offer. So that meant a lot to me. But like Chris, where do you fit in? Are you going to recruit over the top of me? They got Mo Taylor coming in and Tractor Trailer and all those guys every year. And they were on fire nationally recruiting. I was confident I could fit in there, but I wasn't sure over 3 or 4 years that I would get the minutes. I visited Notre Dame. Fran McCaffrey recruited me. Yep. John McLeod. That was more of a, if you get a Notre Dame degree and things don't work out with your career, that was I thought that was a good business decision. And then, but for me, it was always wanting to be a Hawkeye, and I always joke with Wade Lookingbill about it, because when we met with Coach Davis, when things were getting serious, he used to pull that. I'm sure he pulled it on YouTube. He used to pull that. Hey, I don't know if you're good enough to play here. He gave me that. And so he probably didn't say that to you two. I take that back. He probably didn't say that to you two. But my mom is like totally offended, and I'm offended. Well, maybe they don't want me. But my dad's like, man, I love this guy. And I love how he talked. Make him prove it. Make him earn it. So that sort of created some doubt. And then Wade's like, oh, no. He says that to all the scrubs, all of us who are just trying to make it. So anyway, those were my final three, and I visited Iowa State unofficially a few times because of Johnny Orr, just out of respect to them, like Chris said. But it was there was nothing like Iowa City, and I committed before my official visit. Yeah. And I remember Slappy Collins, our manager, in that little black car. I don't know what that little thing was, that little junker. We came over to the Quad, Kenyon, and we picked you up. And then, he's like escorting us around like we have a driver, like we're feeling VIP-ish. And then we go to the IRP and eat with Coach Davis. And then I'm pretty sure we met Chris and a couple guys, maybe winners was it RT's? Is that the name of it?
Yep. I don't know if it's still here.
Yeah, so that's where we met them, and you guys, man, the way people treated you guys, I was like, man, this is gonna be unbelievable. This is where I belong. So Kim Benton was there with us. So yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's amazing. Like, So we all end up at Iowa together, but there's so many other crossovers. So like Chris, you know, I was recruited by Cincinnati and Ohio State and Notre Dame, you know, Jess, same thing. Fran recruited me there. You know, I think what it shows you too is like there was a certain type of player makeup that the coaching staff knew that they wanted here at Iowa. And the fact that we got here and played together, like that was by design. You know, it was by design for us to be here. And so yeah, no, it's just crazy the commonality. But I'm gonna ask you, Chris, so what is you got to give me one. What's your best or funniest Tom Davis story? Or incident. Story or incident?
Oh man. I ran quite a few stairs. I was telling you when people get in, ask me, you know, what happened when you did this or what happened when you did this, and we always talk about running stairs, but I won't make this series for very long. But I always tell people, honestly, the only thing when you talk about stairs that I think of is Dan Gable's wrestling team. Running stairs and then running piggyback stairs and then wheelbarrowing all the stairs while we practice and just sitting there thinking we will never be as good as they are.
Yeah, right.
It even compares to what they're doing, and they probably were doing that after they just had a meet or something. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, from a serious standpoint and a fairness standpoint to coach, I mean, I still remember him sitting me in his office my junior year or my sophomore year and just saying, you know, if you take school more seriously, I will run more stuff for you. And I just said, okay, but I just never kind of did it. So, I mean, like I got plenty of shots. Everybody's seen the games, but I mean, you guys know, I mean, his offense is a point guard, pick and roll type. We run flex for, 15 seconds to make the other team play defense. Nobody's paying any attention. Russ makes some bowling pass once in a while. That's about it. But we're basically just making them play D. And then you're getting into a high pick. I mean, you need Woolridge, you need Settles, you need those guys. I mean, the 2s and 3s, we come in on some, random little plays, but I shot 90% of my shots just off catch and shoots. It wasn't, you think of Fran's stuff today, it's like, oh my gosh, the number of open looks you can get off this stuff. Seriously. It's crazy. But I'm always in hindsight respected that. I mean, I didn't like it at the time, but you're the boss, say what you want to say. So, I mean, I always got a kick out of, I could make you mad, obviously, but I got a kick out of making him giggle. He would, Coach Davis would giggle. And, if the right days when I called him Tom and stuff, he'd giggle about it. That's kind of my favorite greasy stuff, too, is just picturing him always in the background, just giggling out of control.
Yeah.
Gary just started giggling. And he was a good coach. I mean, knew the game, all that stuff. But it was just kind of like this big brother sitting over there giggling while you're doing stuff, kicking the ball up on the concourse or doing whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that here in a minute. What about you, Jess? What's one of those Tom Davis moments?
Oh gosh, I've got a few. I think one of the best moments Kingsbury and I ever had. It was good for us, but not for the team and the program. Was you remember Kevin Smith, the little water bug point guard that he gets dismissed from the team, a week before practice?
Yeah. And
you would know more about that than we would, Kenyon. I still to this day don't know why. And then obviously, James Winters is the only guy back, and then we're expecting to have Chris. And I mean, the program, I don't want to say it was in jeopardy, but as you know, it was fragile, right? Yeah. We had a lot of losses, and you were trying to lead us and organize us. And Chris and I remember sitting in Dr. Tom's office like a week before practice, and he's like, look, you guys are going to have to play heavy minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to be real with you. You're playing heavy minutes. I'm not going to play any games. And we kind of looked at each other and kind of smiled at the office like, okay, that's great for us, right? So that was fun. Their personalities, I thought Gary and Rich and Frank and TD, after the accident, coming back that first year, I just thought from being recruited by them and sitting behind the bench when I was in high school, they seemed a lot more mellow.
Yeah.
And they were different people, which is a good thing. But I remember this is some funny stuff. Like, I remember driving down Melrose Avenue once, and Coach Davis, he's always sneaking over the driving range. He's got the hat pulled down, the glasses, so nobody will see him, right?
Yeah.
So I remember one time seeing him sprint across the fairway because there were golfers, like full run. So I was dying laughing, almost wrecked my car. So I came back and told all the guys that. Nobody believed me.
Yeah.
But that was unbelievable. And then just, it's the one thing was you on the road, like the goal was to never after a road game be stuck in the shower long enough to when he came in. Right? Yes. So like you'd be like, that's the worst feeling ever. Like, so it's like guys would be watching as fast as they can sprint out of there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that has to be one of the best ones.
Right? And J.R. Koch to this day does impersonations, and they're all clean and fun. But it's just those coach-player bonds are hilarious, right? Like you don't want to be stuck in the shower with the coaching staff after the game. You want to get out.
Yeah, no doubt. No, I think, going back to your point about the coaches changing, it did. We obviously the documentary came out and it was done phenomenally by Matt. I mean, Matt Engel did a phenomenal job with that. But, I think the one thing that Coach, and I've said this from day one, is he always had a finger on the pulse of the team, like what we needed. The days when he would cut practice short and Whitey's ice cream would roll in or, stuff like that. Like, I think he always knew what we needed when we needed it. I think the one thing after the season, how he always told us to be students and, get your grades in order, have fun. I don't want to see you in the gym, like go out and do that. Like those are the kind of things that I think, in this day and age of high paid coaches and winning means everything, like Coach Davis and the staff, like they were true about that. And, they want us to have the best experience here, not only on the court, but off the court. So, for me, that's one of the big things that I remember about Coach Davis is just being so down to earth and so in touch with us. And like Chris said, very honest, he was very honest. And I remember going in my senior year, I was telling him, I was like, he's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, coach, I want to play pro ball. And he's like, he's like, he goes, I don't know if that's the way you should go. And I looked at him like, what the heck are you talking about? Right. And he was like, well, let's just be honest. Have you put the time in? Right. Have you put the time in? Like, I look at it now, like if I would have put the same time in that I did with Chris and Keegan on their shooting and their ball handling, like, yeah, I probably would have had a chance to play because I, got a letter from the Bulls and I had other, people inquire about me. So, that was the one thing too that you just had to love his honesty and the fact that he put a lot on you as a player to get better. He's like conditioning wasn't mandatory because coach was like, if you want to be in shape and play, you're going to do what you need to do. So, those are the kind of things that I truly loved about him. But yeah, man, it was an unbelievable 4 years. That year you guys came in, we played hard. Well, we have 7 scholarship guys on that team. I mean, we had to rely on John Carter and Russ was ineligible for half the season or something like that. I mean, dude, it was that was a wild season that year. So I did I wanted to think if you could change one thing, right? We talk about everything that we've done. If there's one basketball thing that you could have a do-over, is there anything that you can think of like, man, I wish I would have done more of that, or I wish I had done that when it comes to your basketball career?
I mean, I think, no, I wouldn't do anything any different. I mean, I think the relationships I have, I mean, as you guys know, I kind of disappeared for a few years, but you still maintain the relationships.
Right.
I mean, you could talk to teammates from 40 years ago and it's like yesterday, but no, because it all kind of led to where I got to, which I love. I'm happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
I mean, from a specific, what would have made more sense? Well, I shouldn't have gone and played for a guy that didn't make you condition. I needed to be pushed.
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, if that's nothing against Coach Davis, but it's just to your point. Like I was recruited by Bobby Knight too, and everybody can chuckle picturing me playing for him, and I get that too. But there's somewhere in between where maybe a Huggins or somebody at UC, maybe there was something in between where it's like that would have made more sense because I didn't have to have people push me to work when I was younger. I just did it from the time I was a little kid. I mean, It was my passion, was playing. You get to college and you get the distractions and you get everything else. I still worked. I mean, I still performed. I still did things, but it almost becomes a job. You know, now they are paid, but it's almost like a job, and that kind of changes it. That's what tweaked it for me professionally too. You know, I'm going around to Europe and doing this stuff. I'm like, you know what, this isn't fun anymore. There's no passion in this. Let's go find something else we're passionate about, you know? So, so maybe to give you an answer, it'd be to play for somebody that did put their, I mean, Close tried to do it. Close was.
Well, everybody tried to do it.
Close was in my apartment trying to push and trying to do this and that. But, you know, but there's something to be said about all that, but it all played a part in where we're at today. So
absolutely.
I'm happy with all of it.
Absolutely. Settles?
You know, it was when I was, you know, since I was so close to the program in high school, I bet I heard 150 times that Tom Davis cannot recruit. And maybe it was 300 times. And I almost knocked a couple people out the older I got, because I'm sitting there going, we've got a McDonald's All-American from Battle Creek. We got a McDonald's All-American from Hamilton. Andre Woolridge should have been a McDonald's All-American. I think he killed Jason Kidd one time in a big event, at a summer event, and had like 50 points in a state title game. So we had, you know, Russ Millard was drafted in the second round. J.R. Koch was highly recruited. He was drafted in the second round. Brian Bowen had a phenomenal NBA career out of Fort Madison. So I always would chuckle at that. And as far as what you guys are talking about, there was just there was kind of a changing of not changing of the guards, but just kids maybe weren't less motivated, but maybe that group collectively needed to have 6 a.m. practices,
right,
and be forced to do that just to, you know, maybe so everybody was on the same page with that. But I never once went into a game not thinking we were going to win the game or we didn't have the Warriors to get it done.
Right.
I never once thought that. Obviously, for me personally, I always blame myself for getting hurt. I felt like there were so many things run through me in that flex and in all those plays that it really hurt us to not have me at full speed out there, just moving the ball, if nothing else. So that's always been a huge regret, because coming in, I had such a phenomenal freshman year with you guys, just being a part of that and all of our dreams coming true and getting through that Chris Street tragedy, that I literally, about 10 years ago, somebody was asking me about that season, and they said that in the Big Ten Conference we were 4-10 or 4-12 or whatever we were. And I corrected them. I said, no, you got that wrong. That's not right. We were at least 500. And they said, no, you won 4 games. I, for years, did not know that we only won 4 games.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought we were winning. I had such an enjoyable time that it did not feel like a losing season. And so that was coming into our sophomore year, I truly believed wholeheartedly that we were going to go to a Final Four, and I thought we would win a national title in the next couple of years. Now, do a lot of people think that? Yes, but I thought we were built for that. I thought you guys, we had Kingsbury, he could hit him from half court. You could run the fast break as well as anybody. Russ was tough. I was tough, and you have to have an elite point guard, and we did. And then you got elbow tapping Monteer Glasper, who could shut down anybody on certain nights. So I felt. I didn't care that Ray for the Friends didn't come. I didn't care that we missed out on Samaki Walker. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
So no regrets at all from taking to court every single night thinking we're going to win. As far as strategically, I do think what Chris said, I had talked to Coach Davis about it a few times. I know Ken McCausland had. If we would have just pulled that high ball screen out another 5 yards, then we would have been kind of what they are today. We would run that high horn set a little too tight. We just didn't quite understand that motion offense type of thing. But with all that, with JR and Russ and you and Chris and me, all these pick and pop guys, we would have won a lot of games doing that. So yeah, those are things I think about once in a while.
Yeah. No, that 12 and 17 year, like when you thought we won, like we were in every game. Like there was very few games we got blown out that year because we played so hard. We shot the 3 really well. I mean, Jim Bartles was our backup 4 or 5 at times. I mean, so I think what Coach put us in a position to be successful offensively, and then our press, like nobody could duplicate it. So, that was the one thing that always kept us in games too. Was it your sophomore year where we had that crazy, was it double overtime game at Minnesota, and we lost. They still have triple overtime
freshman year. That was the
freshman year. Okay, yeah, with Vashawn Leonard. That's right. Yeah, that game was bananas. You two were unbelievable. I mean, I think that's the one thing is I would have put more time in shooting. You know, I think honestly that's why Chris and Keegan are better shooters, is because I knew like I'm not good at this. So if I'm going to coach my kids, like I have to learn how to teach that, and I pressed upon them. And obviously they were always small, and obviously they grew, but that's the one thing, like I was like, I should have put more time into my ball handling and my shooting at an earlier age. But like you said, Chris, we're where we're at because of the choices that we made, and we are the people that we are because of who we came in contact with. So yeah, it all works out the way it's supposed to. So happy with that. But speaking of that, you're both fathers. I mean, Jess, you got 3 girls. Chris, you got a litter of kids. So what? I'll start with you, Chris. What's the best thing about being a dad?
Oh man, just the relationship. I mean, everybody's seeking. I mean, what do you seek in life? Ultimately you seek unconditional love, and it's just something born into you with children. I mean, there's nothing they can do that changes that relationship, and as long as you show that to them, they show it back. And I've had that with all 6 of my kids, and got 3 from one relationship, and then a stepson, and 2 more from my wife and I have now. But it makes no difference. I mean, it doesn't. His, mine, hers, ours. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just this unconditional love that creates so much. And I always tell people, Carter hit 1-3 against Wisconsin, and it was more enjoyable to me than the 200 and whatever I hit in my career. Like, It's just how you get it. I mean, it's just how it is. I mean, it's just that pride and that enjoyment just for their hard work. We all reap what we sow. So when you see it in your kids, it's far more valuable to you than singing. It doesn't have to be sports, and we all get that. There's lots of different things that our kids do, but and I'm resetting at 48 years old with a 5th grader and a 1st grader. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be that guy when I graduate. But it's awesome too. What's wrong with watching Scooby-Doo again and stuff? So, no, I mean, there's nothing like being a dad. I mean, you guys get it. I mean, it's the greatest thing in the world. And those relationships. I mean, if there's one thing closer than the relationships you could build with teammates and stuff, it's those relationships with your kids. It's just something different. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and you got girls, Jess. So what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's well said, Chris. When you're in college, and we're all built this way, you're not supposed to know this, but you just don't realize how difficult and challenging life is when you have to provide and protect and raise a family. It is by the sweat of your brow and the calluses on your hand every day, right? You're constantly out in the grind, and whether you're in coaching or banking or an analyst, there's so many things that go wrong. There are so many trials and tribulations on a weekly basis. It just amazes me how hard it is just to make it all happen. So to be able to come home every night, or to come home after a trip and be with your girls and your wife, and to be able to download and fellowship and have dinner together and go and help them with all it's just it's how it's meant to be, right? But that's the best part, just looking forward to coming home to family. I love it. It's not how I predicted it, but it's been great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think that's a great lead into one of the last questions. And I know when I sent this out, like, this is the Leave Your Legacy podcast, and I think the one thing that people are starting to understand about this show is that we believe that everyone is leaving a legacy, no matter what your occupation is, where you are in life. Like, you're leaving a legacy for someone. So, Jess, we'll start with you. What is your definition of leaving of legacy?
Oh, buddy. Did you send these questions out and I didn't get them, and I didn't have time to think about these? Like, these did not show up. I think Chris got them. Man, as a player, just knowing that we were all just so fortunate to be able to play at that level. It is almost impossible that you guys both have sons who have played at that level. It just blows my mind, because I know for us how difficult it was to make it, even be on your high school team, let alone you guys to play in the, be the top 20 high school guys in the country. And then for me to kind of crack the top 100, and we all came together. Our legacy as teammates, something I'll never forget. I'll always cherish it. As kind of we enter the third and fourth quarter of our lives, it was just a special group with special people. I tell people if I had to do it over again, I would do the same thing. I roomed with Chris, which was wonderful, and got to know his family and grandparents. All that stuff was phenomenal. Just to like you guys, to be a great husband, to be a provider and a protector, and just to raise, like the two of you, just to raise up my family with biblical principles, to serve the Lord, to love the Lord, to be quick to forgive, quick to repent, and just that's the legacy I want to live for them, and I teach them that every day as often as I can. And then the other thing too, I teach them just to love America. I tell the girls once a month, don't bet on America with all the chaos that's happening and the divide. Just we have a special place that we are fortunate to grow up in, and to have the life and the liberty and the freedoms that we have. So that all those things, just like all of you guys are doing, and so many of your listeners, that's the legacy that I want to leave for them.
I love it. Chris?
That's pretty solid. He got the questions. He downplayed it. Like
no, stop.
And then he spoke like he's getting $500 to speak at some motivational thing. That was
stop. I get more than that. I get more than 500.
Kenyon, he was late. He was late just because he had the Colorado State guys getting the makeup ready before he gets on.
Hey, I actually was at the store looking for makeup. As bizarre as that sounds, I was there.
That's crazy.
Hey, my parents got a place 45 minutes from there, up in the mountains in Fort Collins. Oh. So I spent a lot of time in Fort Collins. That's a cool area.
Wow.
No, legacy. Moose hit on all of it there. It's what we leave behind. And I think in some ways you can tie it all together to what that looks like. You go back to basketball. What do you want? And I'm not talking about people on social media. He shot from half court and you did this, and what's your legacy and all these different things. I'm talking about from the people that you went to battle with, your teammates. What do you want the legacy to be? And to me, it's no different than what you want it to be with your family or your coworkers. And that is that you were always there, so push come to shove. I did things that reduced our chances to win games, but I hope my legacy with my teammates is that they knew that I wanted to win every game. There was nothing I was doing within a game, and that might have been a kidney shot on somebody in the second half that I shouldn't have done. It might have been making the dumbest decision of my life and elbowing Dudley. Remember him from Ohio State?
Yeah.
He was like a black belt in karate and an NFL tight end.
Yeah.
Like, what happened there? Well, that was poor decision, especially walking out the same tunnel. Why would I pick him? But anyway, I think it's just always being there. It's you want to win, and you're always going to be there. Win can be defined how you want it to be.
Right.
It's defined differently all throughout life, but that's your focus and what you're going for. And do your teammates know that? Do your coworkers know that? And ultimately, in the end, does your wife and your kids know that? We're doing what we can the best for each other all the time. That's kind of what you want legacy to be. It's that looking back, they're going to go, he was always there. He always wanted what was best, and he always cared. So for me, that would be what it looks like.
Yeah. No, man, I love both of those, man. And that's the thing, like it can be so different to so many people, but I think in the end, everybody feels the same way. Like you said, Chris, we want to be there for people. We want to lift people up. We want to do anything in our power to, make their lives better as well, whether it's a family member or a friend or someone in your community. So fellas, man, this has been awesome. I'm so glad that you both came on. Great teammates. I love you both. Chris, you made the point of, it doesn't matter. Like even when there's time that's lost and you don't see or talk to each other, like teammates are forever. Like that's just the one thing that I absolutely love about the guys that I play with at the University of Iowa. And you guys are all still friends. And so With that, I want to let our listeners know we are now on the iHeartRadio platform, Spreaker. You can find our podcast on our YouTube page, which is the Talk About Network. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast from. I also want to thank my production team behind the screen, James, Jerry, Tyler, and John. You guys, without you, this podcast wouldn't be possible. So with that, I'm your host, Kenyon Murray. Until next time. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio productions for local businesses. Not only that, but they also produce a number of podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting StorylineMultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.